Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you love Naruto fanfics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. Let's begin with part 1. Years ago, before the Great Shinobi Era, its current era as the Sage of the Six Paths, there was a shrine maiden named Lady Aoi who was a beautiful woman and shrine maiden of a small eastern village. She was the strongest maiden in that village. Unknown to her that the village she is protecting feared her power for obvious reasons, worried that she could use her powers on them. Even her own household and family feared her power. 1 month later, the village was attacked by a great snake. The villagers pleaded for Aoi to protect them from the giant snake. She willingly went to face the snake to protect the village she cared for. She mustered all of her strength and courage to defeat the snake by weakening its lower half body. The snake still lived, and the village, seeing no other choice or option for victory but to approach the snake, and offered Lady Aoi to the snake for a sacrifice in return of the village's safety. Shocked, betrayed, and confused Lady Aoi was, as the villagers cut off her arms watching the snake swallow her alive. It was at this very moment she discovered the village and her household had planned this, fearing her power more than anything. Emotions ran through her, and these emotions were anger, shock, betrayal, and sadness, lashing out, wanting to curse the villagers she sworn to protect. But an idea came to her and she had her own victory. She placed a powerful curse on herself to become and live as the snake she bested in battle. Several days later, with the lower half of the snake's body, she went on a bloody massacre on the village who conspired against her. She murdered everyone, including her own household. The villagers pleaded and begged for mercy or to be spared, but she ignored their pleas and still slaughtered them like cattle. After the purge was over, she took an arm of each who betrayed her, mainly her household family members. Having 6 arms, after she had gotten her revenge, she disappeared into the deep forests and secluded herself there to control her bloodlust. Months later, rumors have been going on about the 6-armed snake Lady Kankandera, warning travelers to never venture off in the deep forests should Kankandera attack them. Those who fell prey to Kankandera were never seen again. Every time a traveler wanders in the forest, and if they wander too deep in the forest at night, Kankandera makes a sound that goes, "Chirini." If that sound is heard, that means Kankandera is near, hiding in the shadows of the dark forest, or up in the trees. Or even in caves and in bushes. That sound echoed as if she was everywhere in the forest, as a chill can run down your spine from hearing the same chant, "Chirini." In the shadows, her snake-like iris can stare into your soul, making you freeze in place in her grinning face should she reveal herself, with her bare chest revealed with her 6 arms. Most would be frightened at the sight of her as she coils her snake body around your body, squeezing you like an anaconda, making you stare into her terrifying face, an expression that is enough to send you in shock, rendering you passed out. Once you are passed out, she drags you to her lair that is in the deepest section of the forest that is most likely forbidden. Once you are in her lair, you are unable to move. Now, why can't you move? Because she either bit you with her snake fangs, injecting her venom that freezes your blood, paralyzed your muscles and joints, preventing you from moving or to escape from her. You lay there helplessly frozen like a stiff statue as you see her slither towards you, just grinning at you until you die. Since her venom can be twice as deadly as a Jorogumo spider's venom. Time skip. For 18 years, untouched by time itself, it seemed Kankandera had lived in her forest, unaware of what has changed. She still kills her victims who venture into the forests of death, as many has called it. And why was it called that? Because deep in the dark forests was where Kankandera lived. Even the animals and beasts who lived in the forests of death feared Kankandera. She not only preys on humans but animals too. Months later, she had been recently killing kids who wore headbands with leaf mark insignias on them. Every year she has killed children who had been doing some sort of trial that she did not understand. The higher authorities who owned the forest of death that was like part of their village were forced to close their Chunin exams for the safety of the village's children. Senju Harashirama, Tobarama, Mito Uzuzumaki, and Madara Uchiha had to get to the bottom of this and put a stop to this monster. The 4 legendary shinobi ventured into the forest of death to stop this monster once and for all. In truth, they encountered Kankandera and had a look of fear when they saw her. She attacked the four shinobi with all of her might. She even used her physical shrine maiden powers against them. The only one who was able to subdue her was Senju Harashirama, using his wood style to strap her against a very big tree, using all of his wood to restrain her, while Mito Uzumaki placed a seal on the tree and on Kankandera, sending the six-armed snake woman into a deep sleep for eternity, while Madara pinned the woman's arms with kunais as wood tentacles wrapped themselves on her arms and her whole snake body and torso. The wood kept her attached on the tree as she went into her deep sleep. Not knowing what to do with her, they thought of leaving her there to slumber, hoping in the future that no one wouldn't wake her. Years later, as of today, there was peace and that the Chunin exams resumed and that Kankandera was still in her slumber. However, even in her slumber, the forest became a little cursed. Konoha timeskip. 6 years after the Kyuubi attack, a 6-year-old Naruto crawled through the hole in the chain link fence that was connected to the Forest of Death. Now, why little Naruto was going through there? Because the whiskered blue-eyed boy was running for his life from a mob of villagers and shinobi who were drunk and angry as they prepared to attack him on the Kyuubi festival every year. He was born on the day of the Kyuubi attack and he wondered why everyone is trying to kill him. Within mere minutes he had ran faster, heading deep into the forest, hiding behind a tree, looking over to make sure no one wasn't following him. Seeing he wasn't followed, he sighed in relief as he was glad that the shinobi couldn't chase him in the forest, since they had to get permission from the Hokage to go in the forest. Walking a little deeper in the forest, he laid up against a big tree taking a breather. He felt the wind blew cold air as he started making a fire. Unaware to Naruto, he wasn't aware of what was on the giant tree that he was laid against. Now, feeling a little warmer from the fire, he picked up a small stick, was playing with fire before waving the stick of fire as small sparks of the flame touched the tree he was laying up against. For a minute he had swore he smelled burned paper. Turning away holding the fire stick, his eyes widened in shock at what he saw on the tree. He saw a woman with her lower body as a snake, and she has 6 arms, and she was topless and she looked to be asleep. Turning his attention on the burning paper, he realized he burned some seals. He shivered looking at her as the wind blew again, putting out his fire stick. The woman on the tree, to his surprise, snap opened her eyes, scaring him as she hissed of that of a snake waking up from her long slumber. Her yellow eyes narrowed dangerously. "I live again," she yelled in her angry tone, as all Naruto could do was look at her in shock and fear. To think that damn Senju, Uchiha and Uzumaki would use their skills to defeat me. The shrine maiden Aoi-sama, she yelled, trying to get out of these tree branch bindings, but realized her arms were useless again. Because there was kunais embedded into her arms joint points, disabling her. That son of a bitch. The Uchiha used his kunais to disable my arms. I can't move them. I'm just stuck to this tree. Kankandera said, firming in anger, not noticing Naruto. Looking around, she could tell that she was still in her domain, the Forest of Death. Finally looking down, she noticed a strange blonde boy. Hello, spoke Naruto weakly as she shivered at her gaze. Looking over him, she could tell that he was a human boy, looking at him with an amused expression. If she couldn't break free, then maybe she could get this human boy to free her. She grinned, a ear-to-ear smile. Dear boy, would you be so kind to free me from this tree? My arms are useless. I will need some new ones, she asked kindly, looking at him as he flinched, thinking if this should be a good idea to free her. She frowned, seeing he was hesitant in freeing her from this tree. She could feel fear within this boy. Please, dear boy, come forth to me. I mean you no harm. Free me from this tree, she spoke rather nicely, hoping to gain his trust and hoped he would free her. Listening to her and her tone, he walked up on the tree, unaware of her smile as he climbed up on the tree, removing all of the kunai off her arms, tossing them away as they rusted to dust when they hit the ground. Her arms hung as he looked shocked at how can a woman like herself have 6 arms. He then looked up at her exposed chest area, blushing, looking away. She noticed this and grinned, seeing that he was looking at her chest area. Using another stick, lighting it on fire, putting it on the tree vines that held Kankandera in place, burning them off her. She broke free from the wood vines and coiled herself around Naruto, shocking him. Kankandera slithered all the way into her territory in the forbidden section of the Forest of Death, Naruto was still held around her snake body, frightened of what this woman could do as he looked up around this forest, which scared him. The forest was dark, gloomy, with the aura of death itself, dead trees with no life, the ground itself is hard and pale with the grass dying. You could hear wolves howling from a far distance. There were disturbing disfigured animals and creatures hiding in the darkness of the forest, knowing that Kankandera has awakened, and yet they still feared her. Kankandera finally reached to her destination as she stared deep into her cave, her lair. Narrowing her eyes, she slithered inside her cave, carrying Naruto, using her body since her arms were useless. Inside her cave were spider webs all around, skeletons of dead animals she killed, and skeletons of genins with their remains and headbands piled up. Naruto could only pale in fear looking at the skeletal remains of the genins who were killed by Kankandera. "Welcome to my lair. Boy, this is where you will spend the rest of your life here," she said, finally dropping him on the ground as she slithered over to her stone slab and laid down, seething a little at the fact her arms were useless and that she needed new ones, and she needed them now. Naruto was shaking looking at her and around her cave. Turning to him, she frowned slightly, seeing he was a little afraid of her still, though it didn't surprise her. "Well, young boy, tell me, who are you?" she said, staring at him with her yellow eyes. Naruto. "You Uzumaki," he spoke, seeing her twitch and look at him with wide eyes. "Uzumaki." She spoke with little confusion. She found it hard to believe that another Uzumaki was here. She remembered her encounter with Mito Uzumaki but had no idea that there was another Uzumaki. And this boy was a Uzumaki. She could even smell the blood, but her enhanced senses went tense. She could had swore she smelled the scent of a fox. Naruto nodded. "Tell me, young Uzumaki, do you happen to know if Mito Uzumaki is still alive?" Kankandera spoke, hoping to see if the Uzumaki woman was alive so that she could kill her for putting her to sleep. But to her surprise, Naruto looked confused and was thinking. "Mito Uzumaki. There was another Uzumaki." He spoke, really lost. Seeing Kankandera's scowl, he flinched. "Don't play dumb with me, brat. I know Mito Uzumaki is alive. And you are related to her. So tell me the truth or I'll bite you," she threatened, baring her snake fangs, with Naruto backing away. I don't know who she is. Honest. I never known anyone who was a Uzumaki," he said, looking away from her as she paused a little, staring at him with a brow raised. "What do you mean? You've got to know if you had any family under the Uzumaki name," she said with a frown as she noticed he has tears in his eyes. "I don't have any family," he spoke. As soon as he said that, her eyes widened in disbelief. She needed to replay that in her head. He had no family. "No family? Are you telling me that you're an orphan?" she asked with her attention on him as he nodded. "Yes, I don't have any family. I was kicked out of the orphanage yesterday night and had to live alone on the streets," he spoke, looking away. Now this caught her full attention. Why would a human kick out a 6-year-old boy out of the orphanage and he was forced to live on his own in the streets? She never knew what were streets do to her, living in the forest for decades. "Tell me why. Why were you kicked out? You seem like a nice young boy," she spoke. He sighed, explaining his hard life to her, telling her why he was hated in his village. Kankandera hissed angrily after she heard of his life story, at how he was hated and was abused. Now she had a skeptical look when he told her they call him a demon boy, or monster. He didn't look like a monster, he looked completely normal to her, but she still smelled the scent of a fox on this boy. It seemed like she might need to get to know a little more about Naruto and this little backstory of his. "Tell me, young Uzumaki, what are your dreams?" Kankandera asked. "Being a great shinobi, I want to be Hokage," he spoke, seeing her frown lightly. "Since you're living with me, you will address me as Kankandera-sama or Aoi-sama, but for the time being I need new arms. There is something I need to do concerning you," she said, seeing him nod. "I understand, Aoi-sama," he said, looking at his new master, or mother figure. "Even though I have slept all these years, I need to rest again. But when it's morning, I need you to bring me new arms," she said, seeing him flinch. "Aoi-sama, how can I bring you new arms?" he spoke shyly, seeing her eyebrow twitch. "Lure one of those villagers or shinobi here and I will do the rest, because I need new arms." I'm currently powerless without my arms, Kankandera said as she started closing her eyes with Naruto coming towards her and laid up against her snake body as it coiled around him keeping him warm. Peeking her eye at him she saw Naruto was fast asleep. She was going to get to the bottom of this and it seemed like she had to come out of this forest and see the outside world, but how? Since she needed to disguise her true form she had a lot to think about. In Kankandera's cave she stirred in her sleep, as she opened her snake-like iris eyes looking around as she yawned and stretched out her arms. Wait a minute. Her arms. Looking shocked that her 6 arms were restored, but how? Looking down at the sleeping Naruto that she had coiled with her lower snake body. She had a feeling did he have something to do with it? As the woman flexed her arms and smiled as she looked at him. Wake up, Naruto, said Kankandera using the tip of her snake tail to poke his face stirring him out his sleep. He said groggily coming out of his sleep looking up at Kankandera and was shocked that her arms were moving again. Kankandera looked at Naruto. She raised one hand up directing it to Naruto as she used her spiritual shrine Maiden powers, as her said powers detected a great source of power from Naruto. Widened her eyes in amazement at how much power this boy has. Did this said power of chakra somehow restored her arms? She knew this boy was somewhat special and she could use that. She wondered how was she going to get out of this forest in a disguise. She knew if she slithered in the village would see her true form. His stomach growled which caught her attention. Hungry Naruto? She asked seeing him nod. Yes, I could go for some ramen. He said seeing her confused expression not understanding what ramen was. What is ramen? She asked she never heard of it, due to being asleep so long and has never set foot into the outside world before she turned herself into a monster snake woman. Noodles. You should try them Aoi-sama. He said looking at her. She frowned as she turned towards the entrance of the cave. Stay here, I'm going to hunt, and bring you some food, she said slithering out of the cave leaving Naruto alone as the boy huddled near her stone slab bed. Naruto wondered if this was a good idea to stay with a snake lady with 6 arms. Hey, not that he wasn't complaining, he was a little terrified of her but also noticed she was getting to be a little nicer towards him. Wandering around her cave he could see the place didn't just have corpses and remains but also had picture paintings, a small jewelry box, then he noticed some scrolls in a basket not wanting to touch them, also saw books, her staff with 6 rings, next to the staff were 6 samurai swords, from the left he saw potions and other remedies. He wondered was she human before? He turned to a picture of her in her human form. He saw her wearing a traditional shrine maiden robe, long ebony-colored hair and dark yellow eyes, wearing a necklace. She looked beautiful. He wondered what made her become what she is now. Putting his hand up against the picture of her. Don't touch that, boomed her voice as he flinched seeing her angry glare. So sorry. He stepped back noticing she was dragging a dead tiger, and a big fish. Calming down remembering he's just a child. And that he had lived a hard life, she just didn't want him to touch her old picture which brought back the time she was betrayed by her former village and household family. Those were memories she didn't like remembering. How they betrayed her for the interest of the village and made her become the very snake she bested in battle and lost her humanity out of revenge. Making some fire to cook the fish, as she slithered over to the right side of the cave eating the tiger's flesh. Your food will be ready in 50 minutes. Give it time to roast in the fire, she said seeing him nod. Aoi-sama, he said looking at her. Yes, she said taking a bite out of the tiger. What made you, what you are? He asked seeing her turn to him with her snake-like iris eyes narrowed. Fine, since you're going to be living with me, it's time I tell you my story of how I became this. She said with a sigh. Hokage office. Still no sign of Naruto. Where the hell are the Anbu guards I ordered to look after Naruto last night? Hiruzen the Sandaime Hokage said glaring at his Anbu weasel, Neko and Snake. We have no clue Hokage-sama, it seems they abandoned their position to look after Naruto-san when the mob attacked him. Spoke the monotone voice of Weasel as the Sandaime scowled. Weasel and Snake. You two find Naruto, search high and low for him. Neko, find the Anbu squad I ordered to keep a watch on Naruto and bring them to my office. If they refuse, you have my permission to put them to death," said the angry professor as the three nodded and left to do what he commanded. The old Kage sighed, face-palming when he noticed Naruto was chased off. He commanded Neko's team to arrest those in the mob and send them to Ibiki for punishment. He prayed to Kami that the boy was found, and very much alive. Slithering up on her stone slab bed, eating the rest of her meal of a dead tiger as Naruto looked up at her eating some of his roasted fish she cooked for him. "So you want to know why I look this? Why I have the body of a snake? And why I have 6 arms? I'll tell you about my origin, Naruto," she said grimly as he watched, looking at her. "It all started when I was a shrine maiden. I was very beautiful and attractive back then. I was the shrine maiden that was protecting my village." She began looking away. "I loved my village, and cared for the villagers I've sworn to protect from monsters. But I was foolish in not realizing the villagers' fear for me and my power. A giant snake attacked my village and I fought it. Before I could finish it off for good, the villagers turned on me and gave me to the snake as a sacrifice," she said, scowling and hissing. Naruto winced, seeing her expression as he listened more about her tale. "I was not expecting their sudden betrayal. It was then that I realized they planned this. I couldn't believe they would betray me, fearing my power more than anything. Before the snake could swallow me alive, they cut off my real arms," she said, gritting her teeth as she remembered that flashback. Naruto looked horrified. He wondered, would his own village do him like they did to her? "I wanted nothing more than to lash out and curse the villagers for their sudden betrayal, but I learned that I had a revenge of my own. I placed a powerful curse on myself to become the snake that I defeated in battle. Several days ago the curse worked, my lower half became the body of a snake. I went to earn my vengeance and killed every last villager who conspired against me, including those who lived in my household. I spared no life. I took an arm of each of who betrayed me. After I finished killing everyone, I vanished into this very forest that I call home," said Kankandera with her eyes closed. Naruto looked shocked. He wondered, would the village do him like they did her? Would his Hokage Gigi betray him? The snake lady looked at him, noticing his expression, and could tell that it was bothering him. "So young Uzumaki, you go to academy?" she asked. "Well, Hokage Gigi said he planned on putting me in the academy so I can learn what it means to be a shinobi," he said, seeing her frown. She closed her eyes, thinking, would it be a good idea to let him go? She wanted to keep him here, but she couldn't risk those shinobis coming in her forest looking for him. Plus, he needed to know education, which is important for a child. Besides, she wondered if he could learn any ninjutsu or something useful to disguise herself so she could step foot into the village herself. She smiled and wondered, could this work? But maybe she could also teach him a few things she's learned before becoming a monster snake. "Very well. I've come to a new decision, young Uzumaki. I will let you go back to your village," she said, seeing him widened his eyes. "Why?" he replied. "Because I want you to learn a few things for me. Besides, education is important if you wish to be a shinobi. I also want you coming into my cave and tell me what you've learned," she said in a matter-of-fact tone. "Go now, Naruto. Return to the village and learn what you can for me," she said, seeing him get up and leave out her cave, but she spoke again, watching him stop and turn to him. "Oh, and Naruto," she said. "Yes, Aoi-sama," he said. "Don't tell anyone of my existence. Keep it a secret. And whenever you're out of the academy, come to me before sundown and don't let no one follow you. Is that understood?" she said, seeing him nod. "Good. Now go," she said, seeing him leave the cave. While she turned to the darkest pit of her cave, slithering towards it, she saw a snake statue and began speaking in a foreign snake language. The statue started cracking and revealing a white small snake with red eyes as it slithered out of its statue. "Kei Kenkandera-sama," spoke the white snake with a female voice. "Shiro Hubby, I have a job for you to do," she said. "What is your bidding, my mistress?" Shiro said, looking up at her mistress. "Follow the boy named Naruto Uzumaki. He left my cave, and keep watch on him. You're my eyes to look out for him. Is that understood?" she said sternly. Yes, mistress. I will do as you commanded, Shiro said, slithering off to follow Naruto, leaving Kankandera. Konoha half-day later. Naruto Uzumaki was found and brought back safely in the village with Snake and Weasel. The Hokage was pleased and glad that Naruto was safe from harm. Naruto haven't said a word, keeping his promise to Kankandera, fearing she would kill him, but wavered it off, seeing in a day he would be sent to the academy. Currently at the ramen stand eating, he was unaware that a small white snake was in the shadows of the alleyway watching him with red glowing eyes. Closing parenthesis. Still a bit shaken up and still hasn't said a word about Kankandera. He was busy looking out the window. For some reason he felt like he was being watched but couldn't put his finger on it. In a small mouse hole in the classroom, Shiro Habi was watching Naruto with her glowing red eyes, still following her mistress' commands, and that was to watch Naruto. Kankandera's lair. Watching from her crystal ball, she monitored Naruto from Shiro Habi's eyes until she finds a way to disguise herself as a human. She will set foot in the village, learn her surroundings, but the Forest of Death has always been her home for many years and she never leaves it. Maybe it was time to adjust to new things and learn more about this shinobi era she's in. She will have to make some arrangements for Naruto since she took him under her wing. Back with Naruto. It was now the end of the academy. Naruto was told to see Kankandera at the end of the day, but he decided to get some ramen first before he goes. Though he was unaware that the white snake Shiro Habi was following him. Hokage office. Hiruzen was watching Naruto from his crystal ball. He noticed Naruto has been acting a bit strange after he came back from the Forest of Death, and the boy never told him what was wrong. He had a strong suspicion that Naruto saw something in the Forest of Death that disturbed him. Looking into his crystal ball closely, he saw a white snake follow Naruto that made his eyes narrow a bit. Did Anko let loose one of her snakes? Orochimaru wouldn't sneak in the village. Slug. Turtle. Keep an eye on Naruto. He commanded his Anbu as they left the office and carried out their orders. He prayed that white snake didn't belong to Orochimaru. What did his old student want with Naruto? Naruto. Seeing the sun going down, he knew it was time to go see Kankandera. As he walked towards the entrance of the Forest of Death, unaware, two Anbus following him. Shiro Habi, who saw the Anbu follow him, immediately alerted her mistress. Kankandera had already left her lair and to kill those Anbu. Going deeper and deeper to the Forest of Death, which is where Kankandera's lair is. The two Anbu were in the trees and followed him and were about to jump down and stop him, but heard a sound they never heard before. Chirini. What the gook? Said Turtle, but was caught by the neck by a snake tail strangling him. Turtle. Shouted Slug, reaching for his tanto to free his comrade, only for Kankandera to finally make her appearance and bared her snake fangs, biting him on the neck. He screamed when she bit him. She used all her 6 arms to rip him like paper as blood splattered, covering the trees and bushes with blood. As for Turtle, he was blue, due to him being strangled, so she tossed him aside from her tail and slithered down to meet Naruto. Naruto wasn't aware of what happened as he entered in her cave. She slithered in after him, surprising him. Hello Naruto-kun, she said, shocking him. Hi Kankandera-sama, he said, shocked as he saw she was covered in blood. Don't worry about the blood, I was out hunting, she said, looking at him, noticing he was looking at her body covered in blood. So tell me what you learned, she asked kindly, looking at him. Later on that night, sleeping soundly under her lower snake body, Kankandera's ears perked up when she heard something outside her cave. Slithering softly, she laid Naruto down on her stone slab without waking him up. She slithered looking into the trees. She saw more of these Anbu with blank masks. Hissing, she went up in the trees to kill them. The hell is that? Shouted a Root Anbu captain as he and his squad were unprepared for what they saw. Basilisk glare, she shouted as her eyes glowed bright golden as the Root captain and 4 of his men instantly died. 2 Root Anbu attempted to throw kunais with explosive tags on them, only for Kankandera to turn around and spat out acidic venom that melted through them. 1 Root Anbu tried to lunge at her, only to get crushed flat by her tail. Then she lunged at the last Root Anbu and bit him on the neck before ripping off his head. Seeing that the carnage was over, she slithered back in her cave but had to clean herself off since she was covered in blood. She grew tired of these Anbu trying to sneak to her location. Tomorrow she decided to set up a barrier to close off the darkest part of the Forest of Death so no one but her and Naruto can pass through it. Closing parenthesis. Just as she promised, she created a seal paper and added a drop of hers and Naruto's blood to successfully create a barrier. She couldn't allow those Anbu coming to her dark forbidden side of the Forest of Death, which is most likely her territory. Now seeing him awake, she turned her servant Shirohube into a necklace, a snake-like necklace, and put it around his neck so that way she could see all of what's going on from her crystal ball. She knows he has to go to the academy. Seeing him all awake, she tells him, "Time for you to head to the academy, young Uzumaki, learn a you can. The necklace is something I want you to wear. I will tell you a little secret once you return by sundown," she said, seeing him look at the snake-like necklace, then looked up at her, nodding as he went on his way to the academy. While he left, she went to go set up the barrier, placing it on a dead tree as it activated, creating a giant wide invisible barrier. Nothing can break her barrier, not even a seal's master can bypass her barrier. Smiling, she decided to return to her cave. She dared those Anbu or shinobis to try getting through her barrier. Hokage Tower. It was the afternoon as he waited and waited for his Anbu to return with Naruto. He waited for them yesterday and they haven't returned. Something was not right. He headed over to his crystal ball and saw that Naruto looked safe and sound at the academy. Frowning, he wondered why didn't his Anbu return and report to him about the white snake and Naruto. Something was definitely not right and he felt like he needs to see Naruto and ask him what did he see in the Forest of Death and why is a white snake following him. "Neko," he called out. "Yes, Hokage-sama," she said. "In an hour I want you to bring Naruto to me," he commanded as she nodded, then left. With Naruto. An hour passed as the academy is over before he could try getting some ramen. Neko had appeared beside him. "Naruto-san, Hokage-sama would like to see you," she said as he looked up at her, taking her hand as she led him back to the Hokage Tower. Little did they know the snake necklace red eyes gleamed. Kankandera's lair. She watched from her crystal ball, seeing the Anbu with a cat mask was taking him to this Hokage. There's another Hokage. Well, she has an opportunity to see what this Hokage is like. Hokage Tower. Sitting at his desk, he eyed the boy who was sitting across from him. "Naruto, how are you doing?" he asked, smoking his pipe. "I'm doing fine, Ji-san." "Why ask?" he asked back. "Naruto, I'm only going to ask once. In the Forest of Death, did you see anything?" he said seriously as the boy remained silent, not sure what to tell him. "No," Naruto replied, seeing Hiruzen raise a brow. "Are you sure? You didn't see anything at all in the forest?" he questioned. "Kankandera's lair," she hissed loudly, already not liking the Sandaime Hokage. He's trying to make Naruto reveal her. "Hokage office." "No." The boy lied, keeping his promise to Lady Aoi to not reveal her. Hiruzen eyed the boy, searching to see if the boy was lying but couldn't see through it. Another question, can I ask Naruto?" he asked. "Yes," he answered. "Have you seen any loose snakes following you?" he asked, seeing Naruto shake his head. "Snakes? I haven't seen any snakes, Ji-san," Naruto said with the Hokage frown a bit, rubbing his chin. Well, I just wanted to make sure if you were okay, Naruto. I noticed a few days ago you haven't been acting like yourself usually," he said in concern. "I'm fine, Ji-san," he said. The Sandaime continued to watch as he closed his eyes, sighing. "Very well, Naruto, that was all I wanted to know," he said, seeing the boy get up. "So I can go?" he asked as the old man nodded. He watched the boy leave his office, yet he still don't know why this was bothering him. "Neko," he called out as she appeared beside him. "Yes, Hokage-sama," she asked. "Locate Turtle and Slug. They haven't reported back to me. I want you, Anko, and a squad of Anbu to check the Forest of Death. There's something in there, and whatever it is, Naruto won't tell me about," he commanded, seeing her nod. "As you wish, Hokage-sama," she said, going to do as told. He frowned after she left. He had a feeling in his gut that Naruto saw something in that forest and is afraid to tell him about it. Kankandera's lair. It seems that she's going to have to be more careful about this third Hokage. She can't risk Naruto being under his watch like that. She needs to disguise herself as a human as quickly as possible so she can be around Naruto more and claim him. There was something she didn't like about the Sandaime, and whatever it was, she was going to find out. Coiling her snake body, she decided to wait for Naruto at sundown and reveal Shirohube to him. Naruto saw the sun going down and he knows what time it was. He has to go to the Forest of Death to see Kankandera. As he went on his way to the entrance, having made it to his secret entrance via the fence and went inside. With Yugao, she along with Anko and a handful of Anbu were with her, only a count of 8. They were given order to investigate the Forest of Death and find Slug and Turtle's bodies. The Hokage believes something happened to them and they haven't returned to him. So what you think happened to Slug and Turtle? Asked Anko, twirling her kunai as her and Yugao along with the 8 Anbu were following. I don't have the slightest idea. I'm more concerned about what Naruto saw in this forest that got him spooked. Yugao said as they continued to walk in the forest. Beats me. He sure does have balls for coming in here. Wonder what scared him. Anko replied as they continued to venture deep in the forest. They searched and searched for Turtle and Slug. Yet they found nothing until. Captain, you may want to see this. Shouted a Anbu with bear mask as she, Anko and the other Anbu went towards him. Yugao gasped as did Anko. They found the body of Turtle. She checked for a pulse on his neck, only to see there was none. He's dead, and from the looks of it he was strangled. Said Yugao. By what though? What could have strangled him? Anko asked. You don't think it was that boy? Said another Anbu with owl mask, but was silenced by Anko and Yugao's killer intent. What makes you think a 6-year-old is capable of killing? Yugao hissed at the Anbu with owl mask. Captain, shouted another Anbu as Yugao and company headed over only to turn green at the sight before them. This body they saw looked ripped to pieces as they found the head of Slug with his mask on. What could have done this to Slug? Asked the Anbu with deer mask. I don't know for certain. What could have killed him like this? We better make a report to the Hokage immediately because clearly there is something in this forest that could have killed both Turtle and Slug, said Yugao. Hey, look what I found. Tracks, said Anko as Yugao and the Anbu went over to her and identified these tracks. They look small and they match the description of Naruto's feet size. Follow the tracks, maybe this could lead us to something. Yugao commanded as everyone followed the tracks that was heading to the deep dark forbidden part of the forest that anyone dared to go. As they ventured into the deep dark forbidden part of the Forest of Death, it gave Anko, Yugao and the Anbu chills, since they have never been to this part of the forest before. They continued to follow the tracks of Naruto Uzumaki. With Naruto, he was almost there to Kankandera's lair, to her cave. Just he was getting ready to walk into the barrier that keeps those out since Kankandera set up a barrier that only her and Naruto can enter in. Before he could walk in he was stopped. Naruto, what are you doing out here? Asked Yugao along with her squad and Anko confused to find the boy here. He said not sure what to do. Nothing. I was just trying to think of a lie, yet he knew he was in trouble now. The snake necklace eyes glowed. Come with us, brat. I'm sure the Hokage is going to want an all explanation to why you are in this forest. Spoke Anko. Naruto worried as he thought of running straight into the barrier only to be caught by owl and deer. Hey, let me go. If you don't let me go now, she'll. Naruto said only to widen his eyes looking into the trees. What? Yugao said following his look along with everyone else's and widened their eyes in complete shock and fear. Let him go, roared Kankandera as she slithered right out of trees and began attacking her enemies who has Naruto held captive. Oh my Kami, what the hell is that? Screamed Deer, who frantically tossed shuriken at Kankandera only for her to easily avoid it and lunged at him. He dropped Naruto and pulled out his tanto only to get tackled hard by Kankandera as she bit him hard with her fangs, injecting venom into him. Deer, cried Owl as he ran forward. Owl, no. Everyone hold your positions. Form a perimeter around it. Called out Yugao, who pulled out her sword. Anko tried to attack Kankandera with a kunai only for the snake woman to slam her tail against Anko, sending her into a tree, knocking her out. The rest of the Anbu pulled had surrounded Kankandera while Naruto ran behind a tree, frightened. Kankandera hissed as she summoned her swords in all 6 arms of hers. Attack her! Exclaimed Yugao as her and the squad went up after Kankandera, who then started swinging her swords in a quick fast way, fighting all 7 Anbu. She impales 2 swords in Owl, who screamed. She slit the throat of Bear. She left 3 gashes on Hawk. Yugao blocked every sword strike Kankandera was performing. What is she? How is she so skilled with 6 swords? Were Yugao's thoughts as she continued to block and evade. Kankandera then beheaded Boar, with a swift slash, with his head falling off his shoulders. It was just her and Crane who remained against her, as both stood their ground against Kankandera. Yet Crane didn't last long as he attempted to charge and at least stab her, but she countered his attack and slashed him everywhere, causing blood to spray everywhere. Before Kankandera could turn, Yugao leapt forward with her sword and made 1 slash at Kankandera, who was in the opening, yet Kankandera's tail caught Yugao by the neck as she started to strangle Yugao. Stop, please. Kankandera-sama. Don't kill her, cried Naruto as the snake woman turned towards him with a raised brow. And just why should I spare her? And the other one that's knocked out? Kankandera questioned. Because they've looked after me before, please don't kill them. Especially Neko. Naruto pleaded. If I spare them, what's to stop them from alerting your Hokage about my existence? Kankandera demanded. They won't. Maybe we can get them to keep it a secret. Maybe they can help you in some way. Naruto explained as Kankandera began to think it over and was beginning to consider the idea of having both of them as her personal servants. Very well, Naruto. I just may spare them, they will come in handy for my future plans. Kankandera said as she didn't strangle Yugao all the way as she lost consciousness from being strangled. Thanks, Kankandera-sama. Naruto said. Shiro Habi. Kankandera called out as the white snake that took the form of a necklace returned to normal and jumped off of Naruto, surprising him that she is a woman girl, 2 white hair, red eyes and lower half white snake body minus the 6 arms Kankandera has. Kankandera-sama? Asked Shiro Habi, looking at her mistress. Pick up the purple-haired one with the coat on, we're taking them to the cave, they could both prove useful to us. Said Kankandera as Shiro did as her mistress told her. Naruto, Kankandera, who is carrying Yugao, with Shiro Habi in tow, was carrying Anko as they headed to the cave. Kankandera will explain why Shiro Habi was disguised as a necklace to Naruto. 3 hours later, now in the cave of Kankandera. Both Anko and Yugao, who is Neko, were beginning to stir and awake as they looked around their surroundings and noticed that they are in a cave of some sorts. Then looked at one another. We're alive. Where are we? Anko says, looking at Yugao. I have no idea where we are, but the last thing I remember was. Yugao said, but froze as she got sudden flashbacks of their encounter with a snake woman with 6 arms, then remembered Naruto was there. Naruto. We have to save him from her. Yugao said as she tried to break free, only to find both her and Anko tied up. Shit. We might end up as her dinner. Cursed Anko, who looked frightened. No need to worry. I won't be devouring you both, says Kankandera, who appeared out the shadows with Naruto besides her. Oh my Kami. They both said with looks of fear upon Kankandera. It's okay, Neko and Anho. Says Naruto. It's Anko, brat. Anko. Corrected Anko, glaring at Naruto for getting her name wrong. Naruto. Get away from her. She's a monster. Yugao yelled, seeing the boy look up at her then back at Yugao. It's okay, Neko-san, she's a friend, she won't harm you. Naruto said. You believe a monster over us? Anko asks, narrowing her eyes. She won't, I told her to spare you guys. Naruto says with both tied kunoichi, looking at one another then back at Naruto then looked at Kankandera. True enough. The boy convinced me to spare the 2 of you. Says Kankandera, who slithered, folding all 6 of her arms under her large as she watched them with caution. Both kunoichis widened their eyes. And since he convinced me to spare you too, you both belong to me as my servants. she added with both of them widening their eyes. Serve you? Hell no. I refuse to serve another. I only serve the Hokage. Protested Anko. I can't serve you either. My loyalty is to the Sandaime Hokage. Says Yugao in protest with Kankandera flaring killer intent that made the two freeze in fear. Silence. You both serve me. Unless of course you prefer I kill you both here and now. She says with both of them being quiet looking down knowing they had no other choice but to serve her. You both will help me go out into the real world to see what it's like. I have been here in this forest for decades and right now I wish to see what has changed. But I also want custody over Naruto. She says slithering towards Ankoho flinched seeing Kankandera so close to her as the snake woman looked at the curse seal on her neck. What a disgusting seal you have. She said as she put her hand on it touching it flaring her shrine maiden powers into the seal disrupting it making Anko yell in pain feeling the cursed seal being destroyed by whatever Kankandera was doing. Anko who felt relived looked at the snake woman with wide eyes. Did you remove my cursed seal? She asked with hidden joy in her voice. Yes. In order to brand you with my seal. As Kankandera leaned down and bit Anko's neck to put her seal on the woman's neck as Anko screamed in pain feeling the bite mark as Kankandera released her as Anko clutched her neck where the bite mark would be at. The seal looked like snake eating its own tail known as the seal became invisible. She did the same to Yugao who also screamed in pain feeling a fresh new bite mark on her neck as Yugao has the same seal Anko has. Naruto only could watch with Shirohige standing besides him. From here on out, you both belong to me. And will serve me. Are we understood? Kankandera says with both Anko and Yugao nodding their heads submissively at their new mistress. The Hokage won't like this. Says Yugao. It doesn't matter. I will deal with the Hokage myself. The boy Naruto will remain at my side whether he likes it or not. Kankandera says. That seal you both wear will keep you both from revealing about my existence and to obey my demands. You are my servants, and the two of you will not only serve me but will also serve Naruto like you normally do. Kankandera would say as they nodded. Now that we have done that, I require your assistance on something. She says. And what would that be? Yugao asks. I hear how you shinobi and kunoichi use illusions or transformation-like jutsu to change your appearance. I want to learn how to do that for myself. Kankandera says as the two kunoichi explained what the henge jutsu was like. Kankandera frowned as she wondered did Avenue possess chakra to do that? She did have some of the orange chakra that she got from Naruto. Perhaps she could combine this chakra and her spiritual shrine maiden powers to conceal her actual appearance and real form. Flaring with her spiritual shrine maiden powers and calling upon the chakra from Naruto as she saw how Anko showed her the henge jutsu transformation hand seal as Kankandera had finally done it as a bright light erupted blinding everyone. Once the light died down or revealed a human Kankandera with no snake body or 6 arms just only 2. She smiled seeing she was back as her original look before she became a snake demon. Only thing is, she's revealing her very voluptuous form of double F cups and hourglass body and firm hips that showed off her curves. She was ridiculously beautiful with fair skin and black flowing raven-colored hair. She glanced down at her beautiful pair of legs as she began to walk into the shadows of her cave and put on her shrine maiden clothes that she had saved over for decades, putting it on hugging her figure. Naruto blushed at the sight of not just seeing Kankandera but also in her human form. This is what she looked Kika before putting a powerful curse on herself to become a monster snake. Her eyes changed. No black scalia, it was white. Her pupils were no longer yellow, they were dark red. It's good to be back as a human again, but this is only a transformation to hide my true appearance, which is acceptable for the time being. She says, looking at the group. As she turned towards Shirohige. Turn into a white snake. She commanded as Shiro did that and turned into her snake form as Aoi picked her up. As the snake was on her shoulder looking around. My name is Aoi. You two will know me as Aoi-sama. Aoi said with them nodding. Good. Now let's go to this village so I can see what it looks like. Aoi would say as they all decided to leave the forest of death in her cave. Konoha. Now for the first time she has set foot in the real world as she looked at the village before her. Smiling, she could definitely get used to this. Aoi-sama, let us report to the Hokage, said Anko with the shrine maiden nodding. Go ahead. Naruto, why don't you show me around in this village? Aoi would say as the boy nodded with a smile and began leading her to some of the places he would go to. Now in the village with Kankandera, who is under her henge looking like her human self like she looked like in the past before she was betrayed by her villagers, as Shirohube, who is disguised as a white snake, is on her shoulder with Naruto showing her everything in the village. Though she had noticed several eyes of disgust and sneers directed at Naruto, who was ignoring them as she glanced at them with hidden murderous intent, hoping they'd back off. That was when she heard their whispers. Hey, what's a shrine maiden doing with the demon brat? Said a middle-aged villager. Is she going to kill that thing? Said a female villager glaring at Naruto. I thought shrine maidens would be working with the daimyo. Said another villager. As more and more bad words coming from their mouths directed at Naruto was making her angry as she tried her best to ignore it and not kill the damn idiot villagers. So Naruto, do you any place where we can eat? She asks while trying not to blow her cover. Yes, we can go to Ichiraku's. It's my favorite place to eat, since other restaurants don't allow me to eat there. Said Naruto with a wince as she frowned, hissing slightly. Ichiraku's. Ah, welcome Naruto. Where have you been? Oh, who is this? Asked Chuki, who is the ramen chef, as he noticed Naruto bring in a stranger. Yeah, who is she? Naruto, she's very beautiful. Says Ayame Ichiraku looking at Kankandera. Aoi smiled looking at the two. My name is Aoi, and I am a shrine maiden. She introduced herself. Well, hello, Lady Aoi, I can see you and Naruto must be hungry. Come sit, fresh ramen is on the way. Says Chuki as she smiled with Naruto smiling. In about 3 minutes later, Naruto is happily eating miso ramen while Aoi herself had shrimp ramen, and for once it tasted so good that she loved it. It's been a while since she's had regular food. Sure as a snake monster, she has eaten animals in the forest of death. But for decades this is the first time in her cursed life that she's finally eating regularly food. In the past as a shrine maiden she loved all sorts of good food, steamed rice, rice balls, dango, tempura lobster, sushi mackerel, sushi yellowtail, tempura udon, herring soba and General Tso chicken. Those were all her favorites when she was a human back then. She wondered, did other restaurants here in this village serve her favorite food? She would have to find out when she gets claim over Naruto, but that would be a problem. Given how the villagers treat Naruto, she will have to do something to allow her and Naruto to eat proper food. So Naruto, how did you and Lady Aoi meet? Asked Chuki. It's very complicated, he says, but she cut him off. We met in the forest. I was traveling here and found him all alone in the forest. She says, which was a half-truth as her snake companion hissed lightly with Aoi petting Shiro. Really? Never guessed a shrine maiden would come all the way from Fire Country to visit our village. Says Chuki looking at her. So this village is under the rule of this Hokage you speak of? She asks with them nodding. Yeah, the third Hokage. Answered Chuki wiping the bar. While Naruto kept eating. Third. So is this the last Hokage? She asked. She did have unfinished business with the first and second Hokage along with Madara Uchiha and Mito Uzumaki. Well, apparently we had a fourth Hokage. But he perished in the Kyuubi attack. Chuki explains as Aoi listened and Naruto winced. The Kyuubi? What is it? She couldn't help but ask, wanting to know what it was. It's a demon, a tailed beast, and is the strongest among its kind. It's a 9-tailed fox. Chuki says with Aoi frowning in a calculating way. She would have to research this, but then something caught her. As she looked at Naruto looking at his cheeks that resembled so much like a fox's whiskers, then remembered the scent of a fox on this boy. She wondered, is Naruto somehow connected to the fox? How did your fourth Hokage beat the Kyuubi? She asks with him shushing her as he looked out his stand to make sure no one wasn't listening, only to find no one. I really can't tell you. It's forbidden, he says in a whisper as she frowned. Pray tell me why. On whose authority? She asks. The Sandaime. He answered as she glared. Of course the old man would do that. Whatever happened to the first and second Hokage? She then asks. Both are dead, they both died in 2 shinobi wars. Tyuki answered as she frowned further, so that could mean the second Hokage must have made the Sandaime his successor and this fourth one is his successor before him. So both Hokages perished, meaning she can't get her revenge. Could that Madara Uchiha and Mito Uzumaki perished as well? During her slumber. Meaning her chance of revenge is gone. No matter, she will have to accept this. I see. She says in a neutral tone. So what you plan to do with Naruto? He asks, breaking her from her thoughts. I am going to adopt him, obviously. She says with him, and Ayame looking shocked at that. Even Naruto looked up at her in shock when she said that. Seriously. No one has never adopted him, they never wanted him. I tried to adopt him but I couldn't. He says with her frowning. Why is that, Tyuki-san? Aoi asks, seeing him frown. Ayame, why don't you take Naruto to the back and have him taste test our ramen? He would say as she nodded and took young Naruto to the back. As they left, Tyuki put on a serious expression as he looked out his stand to make sure no one wasn't listening or looking. While Aoi folded her arms under her chest with Shiro hissing lightly. The reason I can't is because the Hokage won't allow me to. He admitted as Aoi frowned. Is that so? Well, the Hokage won't stop me from having the boy as my son. She says. You may be a shrine maiden, but the Hokage is above all here in this village. He says with her smiling. I wouldn't say that. If the Hokage won't allow me, then I'll see to it that the highest authority in this land allows me to. The fire daimyo, right? She says with him nodding. That's all I need to know. I believe Naruto already trusts you to look after him while I go. She says, turning away. Where are you going and what are you about to do? He asks again, seeing her pause and look back at him. It shouldn't concern you. Just keep him safe for me until I come back. She says, leaving. In the forest of death. So is this all of it? She says, looking at both Yugao and Anko. Yes, this is all of Naruto's hospital records. I've stolen them from the hospital just as you commanded. Yugao says with Aoi smiling. Good work. And pray tell me you found out who his parents are. She added with Yugao handing her the documents of Naruto's birth parents and birth certificate. This is excellent. Your Hokage didn't suspect this, did he? She asked with narrowed eyes. No, Aoi-sama, answered both of them. Good. I'll be going now to visit the fire daimyo. She says, heading into a secret exit out of the forest of death that leads to leaving outside the village walls, since Anko given her the map to Fire Country and to seek the Fire Lord daimyo. She'll go through any great lengths to keep Naruto at her side, and no fool of a Hokage was going to stop her from taking what was hers. The boy will be hers now. Now on her way to Fire Country capital, reading the map, seeing it as she continued to follow the directions. Her snake Shiro hubby lifted her head up and hissed at the hills, which alerted Aoi in that she saw several bandits appear out of nowhere with weapons. There are 6 of them as the leader of them stepped forward holding an axe. Well, well, well. What do we have here, boys? A shrine maiden and a white snake. And a very attractive maiden. Says the leader with a leer, looking at Aoi's bust that is revealed. Aoi glared at them as Shiro hissed at them. Stay away from me and let me pass, Aoi says. If you want to get past, it's going to cost you. But I think we should have a little fun, says the leader, who got a little closer to her only to hear a hiss and a low growl from Aoi, which made him and his men flinch. Aoi narrowed her eyes and bared her snake fangs. What the hell is she? Exclaimed a bandit. Before the leader could say anything, Shiro hubby jumped off her mistress's shoulder and bit the leader on the neck, injecting venom into him. The rest were caught off guard. The other 5 looked ready to attack the snake to save their boss, only to look at Aoi's eyes. Basilisk glare. Her eyes glowed yellow, and the 5 remaining bandits stared dead on and were instantly killed by her glare. Shiro slithered back up to her mistress as Aoi walked over the dead bandits to finish going on her destination to Fire Country. The next 5 hours or so she took a rest as spotted a carriage with a man on it and several supplies. Hey there, miss. Need a ride? He asks as she smiled. Of course I do, she says, getting on the carriage. Where are you going? He asks. To Fire Country capital, she answered. Okay, I'm going there myself, he says as he took off on the carriage. The next few hours she has reached to her destination as she thanked the man. It was then she started walking off to go to the Fire Daimyo castle to finally speak with the highest authority here. To claim Naruto as her son, if the Hokage wasn't willing to hand him over to her. Thanks to her servants Yugao and Anko for giving her Naruto's medical records and birth certificate of his parents, she will get the daimyo to see reason of letting her adopt Naruto. Fire Daimyo throne room. The Fire Daimyo, the leader of Fire Country and feudal lord, now sitting on his throne fanning himself with his fan with his samurai in the throne room guarding him. And his advisor is standing next to his throne. The doors suddenly opened as they watched who entered. It was one of his servants who was escorting a woman who looked to be a shrine maiden. He suddenly looked at her with interest. It's been many years since he has last heard of an actual genuine shrine maiden. Not that there are any in Fire Country or in his court. He only has monks, priests and priestesses serving him. This could be a rare opportunity to have a shrine maiden serve him. My lord, this woman is a shrine maiden. She wishes to have an audience with you, says the servant with the Fire Daimyo, nodding as he focused on Aoi, who had her white snake on her shoulder. He could see that Aoi is keeping her attention solely on him. I see. Thank you. You may leave us, the daimyo says. Aoi glanced at the feudal lord before her, as she started off with a sincere smile. Greetings, Fire Daimyo, she greeted. Greetings yourself, my fair lady. What is your name? He asks. My name is Aoi. I am a shrine maiden, she introduced. So I have heard. And what brings you to Fire Country, Aoi? He asks, fanning his fan. I have come to request your permission in adopting someone really important in Konoha, she says, with him blinking and looking confused. Adopt? Like who? Who could be so important in my shinobi village? He asks as she had a hidden grin. So the Sandame never told him, did he? Was her thoughts. Oh, you don't know. Not even your Sandame Hokage has told you this, she says with him frowning. What are you talking about? What has Hiruzen not told me? Says the daimyo, now wanting to know what was going on and what was she trying to say. The heir of the Yondaime Hokage, she answers with him and his advisor widening their eyes. The heir of Minato? How is this possible? I was told by the Sandame that the heir had died along with his parents, spoke the Fire Daimyo. Well, my lord, you have been deceived, which is why I came all this way to tell you, she says, giving the man Naruto's birth certificate. The Fire Daimyo read its contents, widening his eyes, that the heir of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. And he's alive. This has to be some sick joke. Why would the Sandame keep this from him? Keep him from finding out two of Fire Country's greatest shinobi heir from him? He kept looking at the contents, seeing that the boy has godparents named Jiraiya of the Sanin along with Tsunade Senju. As he glanced at Aoi, the boy has godparents. Where are they at? He asked. Neither of them are in the village, my sources told me, she answered, as both Anko and Yugao shown her descriptions of both Sanin and what they looked like. He frowned more about this. This can't be true. The boy's godparents abandoned him. For what reason? Why would they abandon the boy and leave him to his own devices? I want full custody of Naruto. Your Sandame saw fit to deny anyone from adopting the poor boy. And there is also more that you should know about the boy's life. He was abused by the hands of all the villagers and its shinobi, she added as she handed the advisor multiple documents of the boy's medical files. Oh my kami. My lord, this is the boy's medical files, exclaimed the advisor, looking at every file, with the Fire Daimyo also looking at it as well. The Fire Daimyo was completely taken back by all of this. How could he have been so blind? He knew he should have observed Konoha. How could the Hokage allow this? This is sickening, shouted the advisor in disgust as the Fire Daimyo glanced at Aoi. How do you know all of this? Do you have any idea on why Naruto was abused? He asked as she told him Naruto's life and that it's a possibility that he is the carrier of this nine-tailed fox. Which explains everything. Jinchuriki never had an easy life. She watched him, seeing him pause and look silent as if he was thinking. My lord, his advisor spoke as the man glanced at Aoi. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Lady Aoi, I will grant you permission to adopt Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki as yours. Also, I would like to offer you a position in my court. He says with her raising an eyebrow. And what would that be, my lord? She asks. How would you like to be a shrine maiden here in my court? Many of my priestesses would like to learn from you. He says with her thinking on it. I may consider it, but I wish to remain in Konoha to be around my ward. She would say with him nodding in agreement. Very well, he would say as she smiled. Her plan had worked, and now she can take what is hers and not let no one else have. She dares the old man to deny her Naruto. Because if push comes to shove, she could just take Naruto out of Konoha and live with her in the Fire Daimyo castle since she works for him. Plus Yugao and Anko seem to know what it's like to be a shinobi and they could train the boy while she's doing business. After having their chat, she would leave with a pleased smile on her face. Oh boy, Konoha is definitely going to get a rude awakening. So what now, my lord? Since we found out about this disturbing information, says the advisor as the daimyo glared. Tell my samurai general to ready his men in 2 days. We're going to Konoha, he says with a glare. Konoha 2 days later. Naruto was of course alone. He wondered where was Aoi Kankandera. Tsuki had told him that she's gone off somewhere. That wasn't his concern. Speaking of concern, Tsuki wondered what was her exact intentions in wanting to adopt Naruto. Both he and his daughter had thought about it. It was rare for anyone wanting to adopt the boy. He wanted to adopt him, but the Hokage for some reason wouldn't allow it. Hell, not even the clan heads didn't want to adopt him. The villagers who would make false adoptions to the boy to only attempt to kill him. Yet this shrine maiden wants to adopt him and they barely know one another. There was something about her that didn't sit well with her and he hopes she's different from others who wants to adopt Naruto. Yet Tsuki doesn't exactly know of why she really wants to adopt Naruto. Aoi true enough did return to the village. She came from the entrance wearing new shrine maiden robes still in her henge. Shiro is coiled around her shoulders who hissed lightly. The shinobi at the gate questioned her for entry. It was until she told them she's on official business with the Hokage from the daimyo. As they let her pass. As she made it, she looked around for the boy and went to find him. She decided to stop by the academy wondering if he was there. In which he was. Sitting on the swing with a sad look that was until he glanced and saw her standing in view. He smiled and ran to her. Where have you been? He asks. I had to do something really important. In order to adopt you as my ward. Come, we are going to see the Hokage. She says with him holding her hand. Hokage Tower. Hiruzen sat in his office writing paperwork as usual. That was until he was disturbed by a knock on the door. Come in. He says looking up. He spotted Naruto coming in with a woman he has never seen before and it instantly made him stop what he was doing and gave her a serious look. Hello Naruto. And who are you, miss? He says keeping an eye on her. My name is Lady Aoi. Shrine Maiden of Fire Country. She answered. Where are you from? I've never seen you before or heard of you before, and why are you with Naruto? He asks seriously looking at her. I'm somewhere rather far away. Yet became a official shrine maiden in the Fire Daimyo's court. And not too long ago I've met young Naruto in a forest days ago. She spoke with him keeping a stern look. Really? And just why do you have a sudden interest with Naruto? He asks with narrowed eyes as he spotted the white snake on her shoulder which was glaring at him, then looked back at her. He senses a bad vibe from her. Naruto seemed to glare at the Hokage a little until Aoi had her hand on his shoulder in a calming way with a beautiful smile on her face which calmed him. She herself narrowed her eyes looking all over the office, looking in 4 different areas. She could smell the scent of those Anbu in this room. Hiruzen saw this and frowned at how much influence this shrine maiden has over Naruto. As far as he knew, this woman didn't seem all that loyal to the village but to his daimyo no less. With enough influence, she could possibly get Naruto to leave the village without a second thought. No, he couldn't afford to let that happen. Naruto has an important duty here in the leaf. He can't let this woman interfere. Why do I have a certain interest in young Naruto? Well, I wish to adopt him. She says with him now on guard. I'm afraid that is out of the question, Lady Aoi. I can't allow that, he says with her smirking as Naruto looked taken back by the Hokage not allowing him to be adopted. I figured you would say that. But I have full permission from the fire daimyo himself. As she showed him the form, which he read the contents and widened his eyes, then looked at Aoi, who smirked. How did you do this? He asks with a glare. You're about to find out, she says with the smile that never left her face. Before he could question her, Anbu Chunin barged in. Forgive me for interrupting, Hokage-sama. The fire daimyo is here. With the army of his samurai at the village gates. He shouted, which shocked the Hokage. What? Was his thoughts turning to Aoi, who continued to smirk in a smug way. Closing parenthesis. Hiruzen was nervous. Very, very nervous. And for many good reasons. The fire daimyo was here to question him about Naruto, and this woman here is the one responsible for bringing his superior here. He glared at Kenkindera, who smirked at him. What have you done? Hiruzen demanded, now upset as her smirk never left her face. You'll see very soon, dear Hokage. Aoi replied, with Naruto looking back at him and her back to back. What did you do, Aoi-san? Naruto would ask, looking up at her as she looked down at the boy. Let's just say I had to speak to the highest authority in the land to have adoption and claim over you. Aoi replied, looking at the angry Hokage, while Naruto also looked back, seeing the man he once looked up to this upset. At the gates. True enough, everyone in the village was shocked by the appearance of their fire daimyo coming here. The clan heads and elders were also present, since they just heard the daimyo is here. Hiruzen had arrived and put on a calm look, with Aoi at Naruto's side, who was smiling. The old Kage walked up to his superior, who was very angry at him, and behind the man was an army of his samurais. Sweating slightly and took a deep breath, he began to speak. Daimyo-sama, how may I help you today? Hiruzen asked, with the Fire Lord scowling at him. You know exactly why I'm here, Hiruzen. Do not take me for an idiot. The Fire Lord hissed, with the Hokage and many others winced, wondering what pissed off the Fire Lord. Daimyo-sama, why are you so angry? What is it that my dad do to upset you? Asuma Sarutobi says as his superior turned to him with a glare. You want to know why? Because your father lied to me about the son of two of Fire Country's greatest heroes and shinobi. He answered, with many others looking shocked at this. Son? What son? Inoichi asked. The son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. And he's right there standing by my new shrine, Maiden. The Fire Lord replied, with many turning their eyes at Naruto, who looked shocked. After hearing those words, gasps were heard from every villager, clanhead, shinobi and kunoichi. Nonsense, Daimyo-sama. The Yondaime never had a child, says a random villager, as the rest agreed with him as they began shouting protests, not believing Naruto as the son of the Yondaime. The daimyo gave a nod to his samurai general, who gave a secret hand motion to his archers. Suddenly the archers bowled out their bows and arrows. Instantly the Sandaime realized what was about to happen. No, wait, he called out, but was too late, as multiple arrows had hit several villagers and shinobi. That made everyone wide-eyed, looking horrified at the dead villagers as they stopped protesting and instead they screamed in fear. Silence. The Fire Lord yelled as they suddenly became silent. Naruto, who was silent during all this, looked wide-eyed. His parents are the Yondaime and Kushina Uzumaki. Now that I got your attention, you all will respond to reason, or you can all die right here and now for your crimes against the son you just assaulted and attacked. The Fire Daimyo says, coldly glaring at all villagers. Please, Daimyo-sama, there is no need for. Hiruzen started, but the glare from the Fire Daimyo stopped him. You allowed those villagers to attack and harm the son of Fire Country's greatest heroes. Please tell me, Hiruzen, did you punish those who assaulted him? The fire daimyo asked. Of course I sent them to Ibiki. Surely you know of his reputation as Konoha's intimidating figure in the interrogation department. Hiruzen answered with the daimyo scowling. I've heard of his reputation, but I feel like those who assaulted him deserves a death penalty for what they have done. And what's this I hear you not letting anyone adopt the boy? Why deny him love and affection? Especially from those who at least cares about him. The fire daimyo questioned, with Hiruzen sweating more as he saw the angry glare Tuki and Ayame gave him as they were among the crowd to see what was going on. Out with it then, Hiruzen. I demand an explanation, or I'll have my archers fire another shot of arrows. The fire daimyo demanded. Well, it was because Naruto already has godparents, and not to mention I was also looking after him too. Hiruzen answered, with the daimyo narrowing his eyes as Naruto heard for the first time that he had godparents. And these godparents wouldn't happen to be Jiraiya of the Toads and Tsunade Senju of the Slugs, right? The fire daimyo stayed with Hiruzen, looking shocked as those who listened looked shocked. If you're wondering on how I know, it's because of this. He spoke again, pulling out Naruto's birth certificate, which made Hiruzen went pale. That was supposed to be in the Hokage vault. Locked away. So where are they? The Fire Lord asked as the old cage sighed. Jiraiya is out in the fields maintaining his spy network, and Tsunade wants nothing to do with the village. Hiruzen answered. Very well. I command those two to come back here in Konoha this instant so I can question them personally on why they abandoned their godson. He says, with the old man wincing. I will be here in this village to wait for them. And my army will also be here as well. I'm putting this village under lockdown until things are settled and so that we can understand each other. As for all those who have assaulted Naruto or harmed him in any way will be facing public execution to get my point across. The daimyo says, with many of the villagers wincing and sweating in fear, knowing they wronged the boy and they just signed their own death warrants. Daimyo-sama, please reconsider in killing our beloved villagers, Koharu tried to say, but his glare made her freeze. No, I've been too blind to see the bigger picture here. All of you disrespected the Yondaime and his wife by attacking his son, all because he was chosen to hold the Kyuubi. And you all just lash out at him. I'm very furious that I'm tempted to order all my samurai here to liquidate this village. He says, with many going pale, and looked at the hordes of samurai who were holding swords unsheathed to look far more intimidating. Daimyo-sama, please, you have to understand, Hiruzen tried to say, but his superior beat him to it. Silence. Be grateful I haven't revoked your status as Hokage. But this doesn't mean that you're off the hook. I'm cutting this village's funding as punishment. All shinobi, villager and anyone else who harmed and assaulted Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki will be publicly executed. And also there will be no harm towards my new shrine maiden Aoi. She has my full permission to adopt Naruto and raise him as her very own child. She also has my permission to fight back. You so much as attack her also mean you are attacking me. This goes to everyone. All of you get out of my sight. I'm going to stay at a motel until those Sanin get here to answer for their neglect. Oh, and Hiruzen, the Fire Lord says, with many wincing and sweating as they instantly left his sight, with the exception of Hiruzen, the clanheads and elders. Yes, he answered. Tsunade and Jiraiya have less than 2 days to get here, and if they don't arrive on time, I'll place a huge bounty on both their heads that every hunter nin and bounty hunter will gladly go after them and bring me their heads. Said the fire daimyo, with Hiruzen widening his eyes. But my lord, Hiruzen tried to protest such action, but the glare his superior told him to comply to that order. Do it now or I'll lessen it for them to be here less than 1 day. I mean it. The fire daimyo said, now walking off with his general following him with platoon of samurai following behind him. Hiruzen sighed in resignation, having no choice but to comply to this order. As he glared at the smirking face of Aoi. How dare you? Do you realize what you have done? Hiruzen snarled at her as her smirk never left her face. I do. I just don't care. At least I'm willing to respect and honor the wishes of his parents, unlike you. Aoi replied. Naruto was my responsibility until you came along. What gives you the right to meddle in affairs that doesn't concern you? Hiruzen scowled, almost ready to fight her, but stopped when he saw Naruto's cold glare. I trusted you. Yet you lied to me. Naruto glared with Hiruzen wincing. It was as if Minato himself was glaring right at him. I believed in you. You're just like the rest of them. Naruto hissed with Aoi, putting a comforting hand on his shoulder, calming him. Naruto, it's not what it looks like, honest. Please, you have to understand. I never wanted it this way with you. Hiruzen tried to reason with he just lost Naruto's trust. Don't listen to him, Naruto. He's lying as always. Come, let's go eat. Aoi says as she walked with Naruto following her. Naruto, please. You would trust her over me. I'm your Gigi. Hiruzen called out with Naruto giving him one last glare. I trust her more than ever. At least she was willing to take me in when you denied Tsuki-san and Ayame-chan to adopt me, Naruto answered as he walked away with Aoi. Hiruzen was left standing there while glaring at Aoi's retreating form. Damn that bitch. Hiruzen snarled and thought things have gone much worse and it's only the beginning. And there's nothing he can do to stop this without invoking the wrath of the Fire Daimyo. He decided to head to his Hokage tower and contact both Jiraiya and Tsunade immediately. Knowing this village is walking on thin ice. Now away from the crowd and away from the Hokage. Naruto had a downcast expression. His entire face was shadowed as a mixture of emotions ran through him. After hearing this revelation at the fact he has parents, along with godparents that he never knew about, and the Sandaime Hokage lied to his face about everything. Why? Why did the Hokage lie to him about his parents, including his godparents? He wanted to cry. It wasn't until Aoi put a comforting hand on his shoulder as he would look up at her. It's okay, Naruto. You are under my care now. And it's going to be like that for a while. You are under my custody. Aoi would say with a smile as he too smiled as he went to her side and stayed by her side. As the two would venture off so that she can treat him something nice. The boy Naruto Uzumaki is now hers. And no feeble old man was going to keep him from her. The Hokage Tower. How did this happen? How did this happen? Were Hiruzen's thoughts as he asked himself that. No way. No how. How did that bitch contact the Fire Daimyo and involve him in matters that shouldn't concern him? His superior is already in the village and will be here until both Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju arrive. He hopes both of his students listen to his message to come here immediately. Because right now there is going to be some hard times in the village. Hard times that Hiruzen will not be looking forward to. He lost Naruto's trust. How did the boy meet this Aoi lady? He never saw this coming. And there's nothing he can do without upsetting the Fire Daimyo. The councils are already pleading to do something about this. Since the majority of the villagers here in Konoha who wronged Naruto are facing public execution by the Fire Daimyo's samurai. But there was nothing he could do. Both of his hands were tied at the point. Damn that bitch, thought Hiruzen with a snarl on his face at what this shrine maiden Aoi has done. With Jiraiya, the toad sage who was recently peeping on a woman yet got caught and beat on. He received a message from his sensei via monkey summon as he read the contents of the letter. Eyes wide when he read that the Fire Daimyo is there demanding both his and Tsunade Senju's presence in Konoha village. This doesn't sound good, he muttered. With Tsunade. Tsunade would gasp as she read the message that her sensei had given her. What the hell is going on at the village? And what's this about the Fire Daimyo demanding her return? Along with the threat that if she doesn't come back to the village he will put a massive bounty on Tsunade's head. In which will have every hunter nin including enemies she made will come after her. With anger she crushed the scroll. Shizune. Pack up. We are going back to Konoha. Tsunade says with a look of resignation on her face. Konoha. 2 days later. Standing at the Konoha entrance was Jiraiya, Tsunade and Shizune along with her pig Taunton. They entered in the village taken back by what they are right now. They see the Fire Daimyo's samurai patrolling and of course interrogating the villagers about their wrongdoings towards Naruto as they were executed in public much to the horror of the two Sannin. The three of them along with the pig goes to the Hokage Tower. Namikaze Estate. During these past 2 days, Naruto along with Aoi and Shirohige have took residence in Namikaze estate. The daimyo had ordered the Hokage to allow Naruto and Aoi to live in his father's house. As the boy is currently in new clothing eating some soup, Aoi brushing her hair while her servant Shirohige is in her snake form coiled on the bed. Wearing new shrine maiden attire. She would have a sword resting on her hip. As the snake lady put on some light pink lipstick on her lips facing the mirror. It wasn't until Yugao came in the room. Lady Aoi, the Sannin have arrived at the Hokage Tower. The Fire Lord wants you to arrive at the council chamber with Naruto. Yugao says with the snake lady turning to her. I will be there at once. Aoi would reply. Konoha council chamber. Everyone was present right after Tsunade along with Shizune arrived. The clans, civilian council, elders along with Tsunade and Jiraiya arriving. The fire daimyo was present with his samurai general at his side along with a squadron of samurai in the room as protection. The council doors opened revealing Lady Aoi along with Naruto. Shirohige wasn't in her human form, yet her serpent form and was coiled around her mistress resting on her shoulder. Once she came into view, Jiraiya put on a frown on his face seeing the woman along with a snake, as he took notice in his student's son standing besides the shrine maiden. Tsunade noticed her too, wondering who was she, and what was her story. Hello Daimyo-sama and governing system of Konoha. Along with the Sannin Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju I presume. Aoi would say as the elders shot her dirty looks. Hello Aoi-sama and young Naruto. Let's begin this hearing. The fire daimyo says now turning towards both Sannin. Aoi and Naruto would take a seat with Naruto glaring at the Sannin who happens to be his godparents. Tsunade would wince from the look and couldn't help but feel guilty. It was almost as if Kushina was behind the boy glaring at Tsunade. Jiraiya also winced. As he flinched, he could have swore he saw Minato standing behind Naruto giving the man a cold glare. The glare he would wear when he slaughtered Iwa Shinobi in the Third Shinobi War. Do you two know why you are here? The fire daimyo asked seeing both Sannin wince and look away. Yes. Both of them said in unison. If so, then why did you two leave and abandon Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki? The Fire Lord would ask seeing both of them tense. I had a spy network to take care of your highness plus I didn't have any time to be raising him. He felt a lot better with Sarutobi sensei. Jiraiya answered as the fire daimyo glared at him. I see. What says you Tsunade Senju? He turns towards her as she winced slightly. I left because I lost Kushina. I had to leave Konoha because I lost so many loved ones here. I couldn't bear to stay. She answered as he looked at her with a glare. You both abandoned your godson. While he was suffering at the hands of Konoha's villagers. Beating him, starving him, even made attempts on killing him. The Fire Lord says with Tsunade looking shocked while Jiraiya looked away. You both disgust me. To pay for your neglect. You two will become active Konoha shinobi and will have your funds drained and given to Naruto Uzumaki. The Fire Lord says with both Sannin widening their eyes. What? But Jiraiya would protect. Shut up. Let me finish. You two along with your sensei for watching over Naruto is terminated. That responsibility belongs to my new shrine maiden. She now watches over Naruto as his mother figure. The fire daimyo says with those in the room murmuring and gasping. If either of you plan on leaving out of your punishment I will place a massive bounty on both of your heads and will have both of you either imprisoned or executed. Understand? The fire daimyo says with both nodding in defeat. Good. I'm glad we understand each other. As for Aoi, since she decides to live here and raise Naruto. She is my inquisitor. Meaning that she will be my eyes and ears here in this village. If you defy my rule, she is free to do anything as she pleases. If you attack her that also means you're attacking me. Are we clear? The fire daimyo says looking at the council who nodded their heads in defeat. This hearing is dismissed. Aoi, farewell and take good care of young Naruto. If you ever need anything just message me. He would say to her. Thank you daimyo-sama. I promise I will. Unlike certain idiots, Aoi would say with Jiraiya looking offended by that with Tsunade looking a bit saddened. Hiruzen would scowl at Aoi. Let's go home Naruto. Aoi would say with the boy following her leaving the council chamber.